What is up, everyone? It is your friend Damian Howard here with another Village Talks recording. Hey, this podcast space is all about us amplifying the possibility of synergies and collaboration, us being the village, because as we come together, we have a superpower that's created that's going to help kids to thrive, help them to live their best lives. So today, y'all, Kelvin is here with us. And if I understand correctly, Kelvin not too long ago just got his PhD. So we're gonna put some respect on his name and call him Dr. Riddle. You understand? For this segment today, we're not gonna play around with that. Yeah, but he is representing and leadership of military mentors. And I'm loving already this podcast that we're about to get into today because there is a nuance here. There's something that's different about his approach that is unlike any of the other 30 segments that we've had to date. So, with that, Kelvin, if you don't mind, jump in there and introduce yourself.
All right. I appreciate that introduction, Damien. Well, just for the record, I am a doctor of education and not a PhD, but that's okay. That's okay. I have to make that correction all the time. Yeah, I am Kelvin. I'm glad to be here today. Super excited to be here with my friend Damien. We have so much to talk about, and I'm so excited. Hey, just a little bit about me. So I'm an active duty officer. I am still currently serving here in the DMV area. Um, I am the executive director, newly appointed executive director for Military Mentor as of December 2025. This is an exciting role. I'm honored to step into this role. Big shoes to fill. For someone who I consider my mentor for of a long time. And then what we do at Military Mentors essentially is we're all about transforming how military communities uh, grow through mentorship, right? Something that I did leave out that's very important is that I'm a father of five and I've been married 14 years to my beautiful bride. And so I just want to make sure I state that as well. But what I do at Military Mentor, see, Damien, I got a lot to talk about and
That's
just
what's
mixing
up.
it all up.
That's why we're
But
here.
yeah, exactly. What I do at Military Mentors is leading the organization, high impact, um, high performing individuals, and really getting after defining what mentorship really and truly is within the context of the military community to include first responders and government service individuals as well, spouses and kids as well. So that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell. I don't want to bore everybody with that. I'm just ready to get into the meat and potatoes, Damien.
Man, I'm ready to get right into something that is a subtle nuance, or kind of like, I don't know, it's just a different question than anything I've ever asked. But I wonder, even though we're going to get to your point to the meat and potatoes and learn a little bit more about what military mentors is all about and you all's unique approach, one thing is coming to my mind to ask you. When you have folks who have been uniquely impacted by trauma, um, based on just their experiences, unique experiences that they've had as military affiliated individuals, I wonder, is there something about you all training them and supporting them to be mentors and or to receive mentorship that uniquely helps them to navigate life post whatever deployment maybe they might have had and any particular trauma that might have come with that?
Oh man, I love that. I think in short, the answer is absolutely. Um, I think I have my own personal experience that I can base this on, right? And so, coming from a deployment back in 2015, 2016 timeframe in Iraq, um, I had made up my mind from just some of the experiences in the military and downrange, that when I returned back stateside, I was going to call it, right? I was going to get out. I was going to pull the plug on my military service and I was going to, hang up the uniform. But it was a mentor that helped me to realize what I was doing was the decision that I was making was based on some traumatic experiences and also based on some professional things that I just did not like. Um, and that mentor helped me to just see through the fog, right? And to really understand what was happening, right? Because I was young, fresh out of college. And so just being prepared for those experiences coming out of college, sometimes we just don't have the tools to be able to survive, or not to survive because we have the training, but the wherewithal to be able to understand everything that's happening, right? In some of those experiences. And I don't really want to get deep into those experiences, but yeah, so I'll just put it in that way. I know that from the training that we do, training folks to go out and mentor and be able to create those authentic connections within their unit and within their communities is
Yeah.
definitely impactful. I would tell you that even right now we have people in areas such as Kuwait, uh, who are involved in our military mentors, who are making a difference and making an impact in the lives of the folks that are around them based off of the things that we do here in military mentors.
So when you think of just the mentor component of military mentors, just that word, how do you all uniquely define mentors? And the reason I ask that, and maybe, yeah, so it's just mentors, but again, within the confines of you all's work and your flow, how do y'all, who is a mentor? And I ask that because you said, hey, some people that get trained, they go right back with their cadre. Give me the language when you talk back to me, and that's where their mentorship is, right? They're with their colleagues and showing up as a mentor there. And or it also sounds like, if I'm correct, that mentors that get trained might also be people who go back to their community. So like, who are mentors within you all space?
Yeah, so of course. So, um, first of all, how we define mentorship at Military Mentors is that it is a relationship. It is a long-term relationship, right? And it's reciprocal, yet asymmetrical. And I know that's a mouthful, but the reason why we do that and we frame it that way is because a lot of times people will think that mentorship is simply a block check. It's simply a person of higher rank giving someone of lesser rank instruction or advice, right? And we don't see mentorship that way. It's more so about the experience of the elder person, right? Whether that's a person of higher rank or lesser rank, but it's about the experience in whatever context that they're giving that advice, and whatever experience that the individual is seeking out that mentor for, right? It's asymmetric in that it's unequal in role. It's equal in that it's mutually beneficial, right? So while it's unequal in the role, there's I think, a higher responsibility for the mentor to the mentee. Um, but I think that with the experience gap, as far as the unequal in role, there's the experience gap, and then there's also a lot of times a power dynamic. Within the military, we are a hierarchical organization, and so you know, a lot you won't have a private running up to a colonel seeking mentorship, right? There's just a huge gap there. But you might have a lieutenant reaching out to a lieutenant colonel for some mentorship to help, understand things. But we tend to shy away from having or encouraging mentorship within the same organization in a hierarchical structure. And so, what am I saying? So, and why is that? Because if my boss is a lieutenant colonel, right? We call that's a lieutenant colonel, and I'm a lieutenant. There's one lieutenant right in that chain of command. I'm sorry, there's one lieutenant colonel in that chain of command. There's multiple lieutenants in that chain of command, right? And so if I am developing a relationship with the boss, that might that might create some friction as far as the word favoritism is concerned. And so we just have to be careful with mentorship within the chain, right? As a matter of fact, we don't encourage that. When you're seeking mentorship, you're seeking it outside of the chain of command, right? So that way it takes away that element of favoritism, which can be disruptive to a culture and to an organizational you know to relationships, peer relationships, as well as just the chain of command. So we don't want to disrupt good order and discipline. We don't want to threaten that at all. So we encourage mentorship to be outside of that chain of command. And we find that to be fruitful. I'll just say it that way.
That's helpful as far as us getting a glimpse into what military mentors is all about. I'm also curious to hear you speak a little bit more as it pertains to mentors who are then empowered to do what I guess I'll call more traditional forms of mentorship in their community. Is there possibly an emphasis on them finding kids and offering mentorship, other families, or even adults with needs? What does that type of community-based mentorship look like for military affiliated persons who are trained by your organization?
Absolutely. So we actually have an emissary in the DC area who started a nonprofit after military mentors. And he's an emissary and he started a nonprofit for youth, for underprivileged youth, helping them to develop in character, to develop in competence, and to also have get access to resources for, you know, further education beyond high school, right? Um, and I think that's awesome. I think that's great. He's very he's very passionate about it. I'll just say that. And later, Damien, I'll share with you his information, his link, because I think that he would be a great candidate for this podcast,
Okay.
just to talk about the work that he's done here in the DC area. And I don't want to say the name of his nonprofit because it's very unique, and so I don't
Okay.
want to mess it up.
That's what's up. Yeah, when we get him on here, we'll let him pronounce it and
We'll
all
let
that
him pronounce it.
stuff.
So I'll make sure that I get you that information, and then we'll drop that for the listeners. We'll drop that as well, so they can check him out and see the
Yeah.
work that he's doing here in the DC area. But you know, he was trained through the emissary program. You know, defining and understanding what mentorship is, what teaching, mentor, and coaching looks like. You know, tailor-made mentoring, what that means, and you know, he's doing awesome things. And so it's awesome to see that impact, especially as an active duty service member, you know, very busy, busy lives, but finding time to give back to a community that you're currently, you know, tapped into is I think important and it's very honorable.
You said something earlier when you were like, as far as survival, Damien, we get the training to make sure that we are doing the things that put us in the position of highest probability of us surviving, right? In any type of given scenario, any type of given circumstance. But what I venture to believe, to your point, when you start talking about mentorship, which entails the ability to make these like real connections, deep connections, love oriented connections, even, especially talking about, men in the military, maybe even kind of thinking of that type of approach might seem soft, it might seem whatever it might be, right? And again, I'm coming with a whole bunch of jargon and language that you're gonna probably have to clean up. So, but I'm gonna put it out there how it comes to my mind and help me out on the other
That's
end.
all right, Damien.
But
That's
here's
all
my
right.
point. It's just like, yeah, we get tactics and we get techniques that's going to help us to make sure that we get back home safely. But I feel like y'all are giving something else that makes sure that not only do I get home safely, but when we get home, that we're whole, that my mind is still in the most empowered place possible, especially given the fact that, right, during deployment, there's all type of exposures that certain people might have. So that's that aspect of what you all are doing that I would really like you to develop, because I'm just speaking from in a very imperfect way what I'm assuming based on what you do. But the more you talk, I'm seeing the value of how you all show up. So I just wanted you to unpack that more.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good observation. I think, especially in an organization where, you know, we are all about being tough, all about being resilient, all about being consistent and competent and all those good things. There are a lot of hard skills that we have. There are a lot of hard skills that we have to develop in order to survive in austere environments, right? But when it comes to the soft skills, as we like to call them, we just kind of throw them all in the bag. And honestly, mentorship is one of those soft skills that we just kind of toss in the bag as an organization, right? Um, and I think that mentorship helps to drive can help to drive change in areas that as an organization or as a force, I should say, from my perspective as a new field grade officer in the ranks, I think that retention can be helped by mentorship. I think that mental instability can be helped by mentorship. I believe that sexual harassment, sexual assault can be reduced through mentorship. I believe all of these things that are sort of symptoms that we deal with as an organization at the strategic level, leaders. I think that something as significant but insignificant in many minds as mentorship can help to combat that. The problem is there's a gap as it relates to the research that exists to
Ah,
substantiate that. And
mhm.
so when you're talking about, I think, in a hierarchical organization that's deeply entrenched in its ways and people don't like change, and when you want to introduce something such as mentorship from an institutional perspective, that can be very tricky because now you're talking about applying resources and things that you have to convince, the bureaucracy to get on board with, right? Um, and so I think that's the challenge that we have that's unique within the military community as it relates to mentorship. And then going back to your original point where you talked about how some of the other resistance we might get from just being in a, depending on the job that you have, right, and the culture that you're in. There are a lot of stereotypes, of course, about service members, hyper masculine, macho, those sort of things. They do exist, right? And but even within those cultures and within that context, mentorship can happen. Mentorship can happen because you got to think about, the force is rotating all the time. You got people coming in who are being recruited. We are truly a representation of America. We are a melting pot, different cultures, different backgrounds. So at the end of the day, we all have to be headed in one direction. And that's where all of the professional training comes in. But at the end of the day, to fight back or push back against some of the things that we actually deal with that's plaguing our organization, I think that we need to elevate mentorship more. And
Yeah.
I think that's where military mentors come in.
Mhm.
And we're doing it as fast as we can with the resources that we have. I
Yeah.
think we have had about over 100 emissaries come through our program now, and we've been at it for a while. But that's with the scope and size of our organization, what we're able to do.
Yeah. I just love the dynamic of these podcasts because you and I were together in person at a mentorship summit there in DC, and you and I chatted maybe a good 30 to 45 minutes, maybe not in one sitting, but over the course of us kind of seeing each other, we were chatting. I think we even shared notes a bit offline, but it's just something about this space, right? Hearing you like kind of diving in a little bit more deeply about certain things that you're saying, that's really helping me to understand the value of what military mentors is all about, man. So I don't know, I'm feeling a visceral response to like, yeah, that's actually needed. And I want to tell you one thing that came out of a conversation I just had. Man, bro, it's a brother, Marcus Struther, that's doing some dope work with Mentor California, right? And his
Okay.
whole thing in a minute I'm gonna give you a magic wand. We're not quite there yet, but when I gave him his, he was like, one of the things I'm gonna do with my magic wand is I'm gonna go ahead and point this at all educators and help them to understand the value of them knowing that they are mentors and being able to show up as mentors and implicit. That's why I used that word love a moment ago. Implicit in how all of them are showing up is a real, genuine love for kids. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And now what I'm seeing with what it is that you're saying, speaking of the fact that even nascent research is showing that, yo, that might be some correlation between suicides going down, and like you say, sexual harassment. At the core of it is like, yo, we gotta love people. And that love might look different from teacher, from parent, or lieutenant who is high ranking. You know what I mean? But there's like some core principles that should be pervasive that dictate how we should treat people and how we should show up for others. And I would just assume so much of that is implicit in how y'all are training folk.
Absolutely. So we believe at Military Mentors that not only, of the career facets of mentorship, the career benefits, I should say, of mentorship, but there's also from Kathy Cram and her research, her body of work, the psychosocial aspects of mentorship that, like you just alluded to, it transcends the context, whether that's in the classroom or whether that's at the Pentagon or whether that's in a military unit out at Fort Bragg, whatever the case is, whether that's in corporate America, Wall Street, whatever it is, as it relates to mentorship, there are psychosocial benefits. And those psychosocial benefits include role modeling, which we know that teachers are really important for, and they really play a big part in role modeling. Acceptance. Some kids come from backgrounds where they may not be accepted at home, but guess what? Their teacher accepts them, right? Same thing, right? We get even in the military units, you might have people rotate in a unit. They may not necessarily be a good fit for the unit, so they may not have an acceptance in their particular unit, but they might get acceptance from their mentor, right? And so that plays into of a sense of a belonging, in the organization. That plays into well-being mentally, right? And then you have counseling. You have what's the other? Friendship, which is big, right? And you talk about love. I think that friendship, that love, that cycles, that we can probably use that interchangeably in this within this context, but there's a connection there. So Kathy Cram has really brought that to bear, those psychosocial benefits of mentorship. And I think it's important that we just state those because you don't get that from coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching alone, let it be alone. Counseling alone, you know, teaching alone, you don't get those things. But when you start talking about mentorship, now you're adding in these psychosocial benefits that kids need, and believe it or not, adults need. We all need.
So how do you stick with it? And the reason I asked that question is because I think you alluded a moment ago to the fact that a lot of what y'all are trying to do and accomplish isn't necessarily etched into the culture of a lot of the spaces that y'all are trying to integrate this teaching and this methodology. However, as we know with the whole kind of flywheel effect, is that this stuff starts working in one space and impacting positive change, keeping people safe, saving lives, keeping people in active duty, right? And excited about the work, then stuff starts taking off. So, yeah, how do you stick around long enough to see that flywheel to start to churn?
I tell you what, so MM has been around for quite some time, 2015. Um, but as it relates to the emissary program, I believe the emissary program was 2021. It was created, it kicked off in 2021 or about that time, somewhere around COVID. And I could be misquoting that. But I say all that to say that one of our motto is start a conversation, spark a transformation. And in an organization like the military, right? And I say that's organization that's really big. I should say maybe just say army for my context, but because
Certainly.
we touch all services in our population. I can't just say army, but within the organization, mentorship is defined differently across the organizations. So the army defines mentorship one way, the Navy defines it one way, the Air Force defines it one, and so we're not even speaking the same language fundamentally, right? So I'm just going to start with Army. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. So within the Army, we believe that starting that conversation is the means to spark a transformation within a hierarchical organization. So we do that through publishing articles, which all of our emissaries do, and we publish those on our website. So if anybody's listening to this, if you visit militarymentors.org, you can drop your email there, and you will get monthly newsletters. But you also get access to um, all of the newsletter. I'm sorry, all of the articles that we have surrounding mentorship from many different aspects, but primarily the military aspect, right? Um, there's a messaging piece where you have to kind of communicate to the powers that be that hey, something's broken within our system. We need to address this, right? And so starting the conversation again, bouncing back to what I said a few minutes ago, but now we got to start finding the data. we gotta we gotta be able to articulate why we need to, you know, invest resources on mentorship.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking money, I'm talking time. And time is very a very precious commodity in the military.
Yeah.
We can do a lot in 24 hours. So convincing the powers that be why we need to invest or why we need to relook mentorship is showing them what the impacts are. We can
Mm,
show them from different contexts, right? So that's why I'm starting to dig into like the youth mentorship and looking at that body of literature to see if maybe there is some type of connection that we can make or some kind of ideas that will pop out of within the education context, how it might benefit us within the military context,
mm.
right? And so talking about it, podcasts, articles, writing, blogs. Hey, this is a problem. This is a problem. You see me on LinkedIn. You see my program director on LinkedIn probably because he
Yeah.
tags me a lot. And I'm so proud of him, the work that he does, because he's very far out front. My mentor as well does the same thing. A lot of writing and talking about this concept called mentorship that we tend to just brush off as not important, but it's important. And that's the job of military mentors is to elevate that, to
Mm.
elevate mentorship.
I love it. I love it. Well, look, we're at the point in this podcast where it's whoop, here's your magic wand. So in
Oh,
your imaginative mind, if you had a magic wand that you could use to change or make a positive impact with anything, particularly right within your workflows, within the ecosystem of what you're about, what would you use that magic wand for?
I would use that magic wand and I would institutionalize
Mm,
mentorship across the DoD or DOW.
mm,
Um, I would remove as many barriers as possible to someone finding a mentor. Uh, and I know my magic wand is doing a lot right now.
that's it. That's what's
And
up. That's why we're here.
I would especially try, or no, I wouldn't try, I would especially use my magic wand to reduce suicides in
Mm,
the military through the power of mentorship.
mm,
And I
mm,
know I said a mouthful, but that is something that is plaguing us. It's plaguing first responder community. It's plaguing
mm,
even the youth, right? This is an epidemic in America,
mm.
suicides, right? And I would use that one to go ahead and show how mentorship can actually impact and change that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's so powerful. So, Kelvin, when your time flies when you're having fun, right? So we're at a point where it's time for us to wrap up this particular podcast segment. But before we leave, I want to give you the floor that if there might be anything that I missed, if there might be pieces that you want to make sure gets highlighted before we jump off, you have the floor.
I think I'm gonna just leave with like a final thought. Is that okay, Damien?
Man, whatever you got for us.
Okay, so I think something I'm thinking about is just for everybody out there who's thinking about, you know, whether or not I should become a mentor or I don't have the time to mentor anyone. I would tell you to just reconsider and to really think about the impact that you can make in somebody's life by just offering your hand. Um, and for the folks who are out there who are considering approaching someone to be their mentor, right? You are a mentee seeking a mentor. I like to say that mentor, the title of mentor is an honor, right? And you just don't toss it out on anybody. You can have a relationship or be cordial with someone, um, and that's okay, right? To if it's transactional, it's transactional. But allow a relationship to develop a bit before you bestow the title of mentorship, so that you can manage your expectations, and so that you won't be let down. Right? Finding a mentor is not as easy as just walking up to someone and saying, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" Sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not. You see somebody that you admire, you see someone that's doing something that you aspire to do, and you want to approach them, but you just don't have the courage to do it because you don't know how. And so I would tell you, uh, like Nike, the shirt I'm wearing, just do it, right?
I love it.
Just do it. Just approach them and seek out that knowledge and allow that relationship to blossom. You will find out if you're a good fit and if that person is a good fit for you before you bestow the title of mentor.
Mm, yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Um, what is that QR code linked to? I'm just curious. I've been looking at it the whole time.
So the QR code is just simply my I think it's my contact card. It might be
Okay,
in the mentor website, but I believe
perfect,
it is my contact details. So it's
perfect.
probably my Blink card if I had to guess.
Perfect, perfect. So cool. Y'all know, go ahead, get your phone, hit that QR, so y'all could connect with Kelvin. Kelvin, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your commitment to just upholding the principles of the most important principles and the most perennial principles as far as why our country was founded and why it's important for us to protect those pieces. All that just kind of comes to mind, like I say, in like a visceral way when I just think of, man, this conversation that we're having today and the community that you are positioned to best serve. And again, you even used that word of transformation a moment ago. Just thinking of the power and the value in what you have the potential to do, man, it's just massive. Yeah, so guess this has been another one of our Village Talk segments. I know I was inspired. I know I was educated by this, and I trust you all were as well. I'm about to jump off, but Kelvin, I just want to make sure. I know you gave us a final word, but is there anything that you want to offer as far as how people get in contact with you or any of that? LinkedIn, it sounds like that's a good space.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So first, I would invite you to learn a little bit more about military mentors by visiting www.militarymentors with an S.org. Drop your email there, and then check out some of the articles that we have there. You're going to find a lot of enriching articles in that section. If you want to reach out directly to me, Kelvin at militarymentors.org, or you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Kelvin Riddle, and you'll find me. And last but not least, Damien, I want to just say thank you so much for
Yes,
this
sir.
opportunity. This was so fun. This is my first time doing a podcast, so this is an icebreaker for me,
Absolutely.
and I look forward to coming back if you would have me.
Absolutely. So thank you and peace out, everyone.